I want to start off this video with a story from me to you. A Chainsaw Man story revealing how I used to feel about Chainsaw Man. So about a year ago, back when I was in grade 12, it was 10 p.m. on a school night, and I'm about to do my 30 minutes of reading before bed as usual. I pick up Chainsaw Man. It was volume 9 at the time, and I started reading. So many twists and turns, crazy pieces of art, emotional moments, amazing action scenes, the Chainsaw Man world unraveling more and more. 10 minutes go by. Then 20, 30, an hour. Volume 10, huge reveals start happening, shit starts hitting the fan, insane action bits commence, the world of Chainsaw Man going in depth further and further, an hour and a half, 2 hours, I couldn't stop reading. Volume 11, more emotional moments, plot points get tied together in a beautiful way, and of course, we have one of the best endings in history, tying together one of the greatest pieces of fiction ever created. I have never been more hooked on a story than that school night where I read volumes 9 through 11 of Chainsaw Man. Then, I got to Chainsaw Man Part 2 and never had that same rush ever again. Volume 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, not once did I ever experience that rush again. At this moment, I started thinking, Chainsaw Man doesn't feel the same anymore. And I realized maybe others feel the same way that I do about Chainsaw Man. So today, I'm going to explain why Chainsaw Man doesn't really feel the same anymore. Give some reasons as to why it may be this way, and talk about what I miss about Chainsaw Man that I wish we could have back. The first thing that doesn't feel the same to me is the characters. The new characters in Chainsaw Man Part 2 have never lived up to the likes of the old characters, at least to me. For some reason, I haven't taken a liking to any of the new characters at all. Except for Nayuta. She's funny and has that charm to her character that I can appreciate. She deserves some head pats for real. My god, why did I put that in the script? Editing Golden Gamer Man, please take that out. No. But as for the other characters, I haven't really been able to find something special about them that I've grown attached to like I had with the old characters. The old characters had something going for all of them. Denji had his horniness, Power had her goofiness, Aki had that big brother vibe, and Makima had a great pair of plans to reshape the world, motives that I found really intriguing. They all had something to like, but as for the new characters, I find it hard to pick something out to like about them. Like, they ain't the worst characters in the world, but would I really care if some of them perished? Hell no! The only times I've really popped off or cared about a character in Part 2 is when they bring back one of the OGs that was awesome. Like Katana Man, for example. That guy was a badass. Until he got chopped up into sliced bread after using his ultimate, but that's besides the point. I miss when the story had characters I really enjoyed, like Aki, Power, Makima, hell, even Kobeni could fall into that category. They all had so much charm compared to how one note some of the new characters are in Part 2. It just feels like something is missing from the new characters, even for Asa, the new main character. The War Devil and the villains of this part feel like something is missing as well, but that could be due to the fact that Part 2 is still ongoing. I feel like one of the reasons Chainsaw Man hasn't felt the same as of late is because it's still in the early phases of its story. It hasn't sparked that same rush within me as Part 1 did because we haven't seen the peak of Part 2 yet, when the characters start to really show that depth to their character. To explain what I mean, Makima was never really a character I thoroughly enjoyed or cared about from the beginning, but from volume 8 onwards, when the story started revealing more and more about her, is when I started to really see how special of a villain she really was. It needed time to make me really invested in the character as a whole. Now, going back to Part 2, as of now, it seems to be in its rising tension state, where pieces are slowly being put together, and characters are slowly starting to grow into ones that could match the old ones in the future, brick by brick, piece by piece. These characters could eventually start to make me experience how Chainsaw Man used to feel, but for now, the characters in Part 2 just don't feel the same as the old ones did. Now, don't go to the comments and say because they're different characters, shut up smartass, that's not what I mean. I mean, they just don't have that same depth or charm to them that the old characters did. So for now, that part of Chainsaw Man, the characters of Chainsaw Man just don't feel the same. And I'm hoping to get that same rush of emotions that I did from the old characters from the new characters sometime in the future. But for now, it just hasn't happened. Give it time though, and I'm sure that one day the characters will start to give me that rush I used to feel back in Part 1. The second thing that doesn't feel the same about Chainsaw Man is the art. For this video, I went back and read my favorite volumes of Chainsaw Man, volumes 9 through 11, no pun intended, don't even think like that. And I was blown away by the art in every single one of them, even after the second read. It gets especially good when we see the first appearance of the true Chainsaw Devil. Holy shit, all those panels are gorgeous. And then of course you have the classic Spaceman panel that shows up when all the characters get stuck in hell for a while, that blew away the internet. I even had it as my screensaver on my phone for a while. Yes, I'm that type of nerd, don't make fun of me. But even just some of the dialogue scenes had amazing art that had me oohing and awing like I never had before. They had me oohing and awing like a fucking monkey. Then I went back into Part 2, read a little bit, and had this moment where I was like, What happened to the art of Chainsaw Man? Where did the magic of the old volumes art go? Why does it not hit the same as it used to? In some parts of part 2, I was like, where did that Insano style art go that we had in part 1? Of Chainsaw Man, where every single scene was drawn incredibly well. In some moments, it feels like the art is missing that spark, that drive, that energy you can feel emanating from each and every panel that Tatsuki Fujimoto would draw. At times in part 2, it feels like that is completely missing from action segments or regular moments or any moment for that matter. Then I realized that maybe this spark is missing at times because Tatsuki Fujimoto's been drawing and writing Chainsaw Man for around 7 years now. Maybe Chainsaw Man just doesn't feel the same anymore because the creator Tatsuki Fujimoto's been a little burnt out of this series. Yo, sorry about that, I just had to sneeze. When you do anything for as long as Tatsuki Fujimoto's been working on Chainsaw Man, you're bound to hit that point where maybe working on something doesn't feel the same as it used to. Maybe the art doesn't feel the same because the creator doesn't feel the same way he used to about Chainsaw Man back in part 1. To explain more thoroughly, imagine you buy a new game and you start playing it. You're exploring a new world, learning new concepts, finding out and explaining different mysteries as you go along. But then a month passes with the game, and you slowly start losing things to explore, losing things to do. Doing things in that game that you once did just no longer feel the same as they used to. That's probably how Tatsuki Fujimoto's feeling about creating more Chainsaw Man right now, and you can see that through his art and how weird it looks at times in part 2. He's been creating Chainsaw Man for so long that now maybe he doesn't feel the same way about it as he used to, resulting in fans of Chainsaw Man like me to feel like Chainsaw Man doesn't feel like it used to, if you get what I mean. I don't know if you understood that. For now, only time will tell if he gets that spark back, and at times you can see the spark reignite in Tatsuki's art. But for now, something about the art just doesn't feel the same as it used to. But hopefully down the road that will change, and I'll get to feel that same high that I got from moments like the true Chainsaw Devil versus the Weapon Humans that had me hooked on this series that night back in grade 12. The last thing that doesn't feel the same about Chainsaw Man is the creativity and originality at some points. I don't know if anyone has noticed this, but at some points, Chainsaw Man doesn't feel as creative or original as it usually is. When I read part 2, there are a few parts that felt really similar to part 1. For example, the Bat Devil reappears for the second time in part 2 after being slain in part 1. Though it may not be the exact same Bat Devil, the concept of the two is the same. The next moment I would pick out to show this is the Infinite Aquarium. Tatsuki's already done this, stuck in the Endless Building concept in part 1 around the same exact time as well in part 2. Chainsaw Man doesn't feel the same as it used to when all of its concepts were original. Maybe not in the sense that it's never been done before, because somewhere out there a show has done the stuck in a room trope or played around with some of the same themes as Chainsaw Man. But when Chainsaw Man is redoing the same stuff Chainsaw Man has already done, that's when it feels weird. Even some of the main plot points for characters like Denji, for example, feel reused. In part 1, a big part of Denji's story was fighting with the idea of if someone like Denji could really lead a normal life, and in the end, he did get to live his normal life. In part 2, Tatsuki reuses that topic but takes it in a different direction to focus more on the question of, does Denji really want to live that normal life or explore a life greater than that of a normal life through Chainsaw Man? Though they're being done in different ways, it would have been cool to see a different point explored rather than a point that was already done, but just in a different way. Everything being new in Chainsaw Man Part 1 made it feel exciting, made it feel fun to learn about, made it feel interesting to see progress, but so far I haven't felt that same rush in part 2 with the development so far. It feels almost like the world of Chainsaw Man doesn't have much else to explore apart from the 4 horsemen and the eventual reveal of the Nostradamus prophecy that's been teased for a long time now. Whereas in part 1 we were getting reveals left, right, and center, like the reveal of what hell is in Chainsaw Man, why all the devils fear the Chainsaw Devil so much, why do devils even exist on Earth. It was so thrilling, but now we just haven't gotten that yet from part 2. So the next reason I believe Chainsaw Man doesn't really feel the same is because so much has already been done with Chainsaw Man that it's starting to lose new things to do and explore. When you write a story in a world, it's fresh from the start. It's like a deciduous tree in autumn. It starts off green with lots to explore, but slowly over time as it progresses from yellow to orange to red, getting more beautiful as more things are revealed, the leaves eventually fall off, leaving nothing left in its place. To me, that first phase of the tree is how part 1 felt. The last phase of the tree is how part 2 feels. It feels like it doesn't have much else to go to, leaving me with part 2 not really feeling the same as part 1 used to. When you explore a created universe, it's bound to have its leaves fall off. And right now, that's how I feel about Chainsaw Man Part 2 at the moment. However, in Part 2, maybe later on, it will regrow those leaves and start that phase again. But right now, I just haven't seen that yet, so it doesn't feel the same. Chainsaw Man doesn't feel the same anymore, and it hasn't felt the same for a while. Whether that be the characters, the art, the originality, to me it all feels a little off, whether that be because of the fact that we are in the early stages of part 2, The burnout that Tatsuki Fujimoto may be feeling towards the Chainsaw Man series, the slowly deteriorating amount of things to explore within the series, it could be any of those things. Or maybe it's really none of those things, and it's just me as a person who feels this way. Me as a person may have lost that spark for Chainsaw Man that I once had all those nights ago, back when I was addicted to the series from Volume 9 onwards. Maybe, like Tatsuki Fujimoto, the love I once had for this series has slowly petered out over all these years of Part 2 being developed. In the end, all I can hope for is that one day Chainsaw Man will reach the heights that it once did, so I can reignite that spark that I once had within me and enjoy Chainsaw Man again like I did on those few joyous hours back in grade 12 all those days ago. But for now, only time will tell. Thank you all for watching and sticking with me till the end of the video. Subscribe if you are new here, and make sure to take care of yourselves. And goodbye.